Alors, on l'a vu depuis ce matin, on nous a montré l'importance de la collecte de données avec ce projet de l'océan numérique. On imagine bien que le développement de l'océan numérique, comme celui de la météorologie d'ailleurs, eh bien, nécessite, exige une coopération internationale sous l'égide de Nations Unies. Et ce dont vont nous parler à Deux Marina TONANI de
Marina TONANI from Mercator Ocean International and Adam Leadbetter from the Commission of the Intergovernmental
Voilà, il nous faut une coopération
of UNESCO, from UNESCO.
Donc, allez-y.
And they are doing a two voices intervention.
So this presentation is going to be split into two parts. I'm going to give a bit of background to the decade and to how the digital ocean concept fits into the decade. And then Marina will give more detail about a specific project that is working to bring some of these concepts into the work of the decade. So I'm here today representing the Decade Coordination Center for Ocean Data Sharing, and I just need to acknowledge Fondation NG, who support our work under UNESCO. But the work that I'm presenting is also done by the Decade coordinating bodies for ocean prediction and for ocean observing as well. So the decade is split into a few different components. It starts with this idea of action. And the actions are projects, they're programs, they're activities, or contributions to the work of the decade. And they are then addressing 10 different challenges. And of particular relevance, I think, to the things that we've been hearing about today are challenges 7 and 8, which are about sustainably developing the global ocean observing system. And then challenge 8 is about building a digital representation of the ocean. And they can underpin the other challenges of beating ocean pollution and sustainably nourishing the planet and the other challenges. But then I guess ultimately the goal is to provide skills, knowledge and technology about the ocean for everyone, and to restore society's relationship with the ocean. And so you can see the outcomes that we're looking for there. And I guess, again, for today, a predicted and a protected, productive ocean are some of the outcomes that we're looking for. So for the decade, we have to do this across a huge number of different ways. It's going to take a lot of different actors, a lot of different people to make this happen. And we want to build a data access service. We want to build a digital atlas of the ocean that can be used for both ocean outreach, but also to feed some of the digital twins we've been hearing about. And then we want to be able to push out through the work of the decade body that's looking after ocean prediction. We want to push out models further and grow modeling further. So I just want to call out two of these bullet points really at the moment in the interest of time. We want to be able to increase ocean knowledge and risk mapping. And that doesn't just mean the risk that humans play to the ocean. It also means the risk that the ocean plays to us. That can be coastal flooding, but also as we see climate change, as we see different things happening, that can have an impact on business as well. Enterprises are being forced more and more to report on the nature-based risk that they face. Enterprises are becoming more users of ocean data as they're forced to do this by their investors, by their insurers. So there's a whole new kind of area in which ocean data is being used. That helps us to strengthen public-private partnerships and collaboration. And so I think, well, we'll talk about it again a bit more. Sarah very eloquently said how the ocean is undersampled, and we'll come back to that in a minute. One of the ways we're trying to address that is by unlocking the data that's held in private companies. Private companies do observe the ocean a lot, they measure the ocean a lot, and we want to be able to unlock that. but then also to be able to use enterprise as users as well, and co-designers. So this is a very, very simplified diagram. There's loads more that can happen in the ocean data value chain. But we go from observation and data collection, we manage and share ocean data, and then we bring it into analytics, modeling, and prediction. And that goes on to end users. And there can be whole loads of intermediate users providing downstream services at any stage in that process. And we've talked today about climate and weather prediction. We saw before some predictions of marine resources, and marine resource would help us to manage marine resources well. But also it gets used in the ocean economy, and we think of things like tsunami alerting or other alerting that can help us provide early warnings of risk and disaster. So the ocean is undersampled, and we've talked about that already this afternoon. But one of the other problems is that ocean data, when it is collected, it isn't always well shared. It was brilliant to hear this morning, as we heard about the Argo program, about how data management has underpinned the success of the Argo program, and we need more of that, and that's some of what we're trying to encourage in the decade. Then we're trying to increase the knowledge that people have on the relevance of ocean data and how to use it by making it more user-friendly and helping it be more integrated. And then downstream of that, extending the use of forecasting services and extending the availability of forecasting services into regions where they probably don't exist at the moment. So some of the ways in which we're getting there, we want to increase the demand for ocean data. So by generating knowledge, by listening to people's needs for services, by listening to the needs that people have for ocean data across the decade, we can increase the demand. And then we're looking at how do we improve the quality of those data? How do we get better data? So we need more observing systems, we need more forecasting systems to feed into that. We're integrating those data better, and then transforming that data better into information. Key to this, again, is that relationship between public and private sectors. And the corporate data group in the decade is doing a lot of work on unlocking the data that's held in those companies. There's a group there that's chaired by the executive secretary of the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission and the CEO of Fugro, and there's a large number of companies getting involved in that. And we're beginning to bring in their data into this global ecosystem. But we also need to develop capacity, both in technical things like data management, data sharing, in observing the ocean, in forecasting the ocean, but also develop the capacity in ocean literacy. If you wander over to the other side of this building, there's a Beyond Barriers pavilion, and they're helping to do some of that work, and we're working with them on helping to push ocean literacy so that we can demonstrate the relevance and teach how to build these systems and services. So we need good practices. We're working with various communities to develop case studies and then community data standards, particularly around ocean forecasting, but also around socioeconomic data, around citizen science data, creating common tools to discover discover data and to be able to use it better, and developing joint technical approaches to the data access and the data use. So we're halfway through the decade. Some of these kind of decade coordinating bodies have been ramping up over the last couple of years, and some of the successes we've had to date are in the relationship we have with various partners in the ocean observing space, not just in the traditional ocean observing space, but also in the blue technology startup space as well. Through the decade, Collaborative Center for Ocean Prediction, there's been best practices for operational readiness levels, and the architecture to forecast the ocean have been published. And then we're publishing bathymetric data sharing guidelines, and marine mammal data sharing guidelines are coming soon from the corporate data group. and then you can see, there's been better examples shown than I've got up there, but you can see some of these kind of development of early warning systems and things like that as well. So the next steps that we're taking around co-developing standards, as I've already mentioned, promoting good practices for planning, publishing, and attributing the use of data, developing flagship data products across each of those decade challenges that I highlighted, making better use of the existing global data systems, and then implementing the observing, data management, and forecasting approaches at a wider scale. But I guess the key to all this is to identify what the wider community across the decade, across all of those projects, all of those programs and other decade actions can do together. If we find activity that is common across different projects that a community wants to work on together, we can get them to align, and then together we grow the impact as we transform that community together. And so I think that's some of what Marina is going to present.
Thank you very much, Adam. So I'm Marina TONANI from Mercator Ocean International. I'm an expert in digital twin innovation and in ocean forecasting, and I'm a member of the board of the UN Decade program on the digital twin of the ocean. And sorry, I have to. And so, by the way, it's clear that I'm going to speak English with an Italian accent, so there will be a bit of change compared to the previous two speakers. So I will focus on my presentation and in these few words that I will share with you on the outcome for a predicted ocean from the Ocean Decade action. So we have seen how Adam has already explained how these actions are structured and what should be the outcome. And we want to focus on how we can improve our capability to predict the ocean. I'm making a mess. And for doing this, we have the Ocean Prediction Decade Collaborative Center that is really focusing on the further development in a collaborative way of ocean prediction centers. And we have seen this morning in the presentation of Pierre-Yves talking about Copernicus Marine. We have seen Sarah talking about the forecasting system from ECNWF that has also an ocean component. So we do not start from scratch. There are components of ocean forecasting that are already up and running. They are in operation and they are delivering information every day. And as Jan shows in his presentation, they are able to help us to understand how the marine system is evolving and how our decision can impact on it. But it's not enough. They are not well distributed everywhere. They do not address all the scale that we need to address. We need to go from the global to the regional to the coastal areas. And we have to take into consideration that, for example, the coastal areas can have very different needs. And so we need to have adequate systems that can address these areas. And we need also to have a different level of complexity, because not always it is possible to have a super complex system, but maybe they're not also needed for addressing the problems that we can face. And so sailing from the start of the UN Decade in 2020 to where we want to be, we want to build it in a collaborative way, an increased number of ocean forecasting system that can be developed based on a shared knowledge and on shared tools. And for being able to have this happening, we need to have technical support. It means we need to be able to understand what should be the best practices, to understand what are the standard architecture that can be used for implementing an ocean forecasting system, so that who is developing a new system can rely upon the experience of who has already developed a system, and we can also align so that we can have systems that can also be interoperable. And this can be achieved in a different way. There has been a set of action started a few years ago for providing guidelines that we will see later in a little bit more detail. And then we need also a community around it, because we need also to have the people, the experts, the scientists, the users that are linked together so that we can be sure that we address the question in the proper way, and we do deliver the products that are needed. So the products, I mean, in terms of ocean forecasting, so we can deliver the variables, the fields that we need. That could be the temperature, the salinity, that maybe are the most well-known, but there are many more. We can go into the details of all the biogeochemistry and all the biology that is at the sea, that could be very complicated and require a broad community so that we can really address all the aspects of the marine ecosystem. And so the community is organized by geographical areas, and so is covering all the areas around the major the continent, and are led by different institutions, as you can see on this slide. Just an indication to give you really an idea of how this network has been established. And here is the full list up to today of all the different institutions and partners that are collaborating. So we are not alone. There are many experts that are working on this, because we really do believe that we can achieve a good level of capability for predicting the sea and understanding its evolution. And as already mentioned by Adam, one of the tools that has been developed is the Atlas. The Atlas is, you can see the URL, so you can go yourself and visit the Atlas and understanding how it is built and look at all the information that are available. But it's an easy tool where, as the word says, the Atlas allows you to map what are the existing systems that are providing ocean forecasting information. When I did this slide, that was a few days ago, the number of systems that were registered there was 180, but this morning my colleague has already updated me that they are more than 200. So it's a live tool that is now well known in this community, and is continuously up to date. And what are the information that you can find there? It's not just a simple list of what is there, but there is also a description. So all the systems are described using the same standards so that you can understand the differences between one and the other. You can be able to understand which one the one that is addressing your need and is answering your question. And you can also look at what are the organizations that are behind it, and also the people. So you can really have, I do believe, a really deep set of information that can help you to interact with who is providing this system, and also for understanding what is available, and also what, if you look at it in time, you also will see how it evolves and how we can be hopefully successful in increasing the number much more than 200 in the next few years. And another tool that I think is really important for who has to use the information that is generated by this forecasting system is what we call the operational readiness level. Maybe the name is not really easy to remember, but as Sarah was showing, when you do develop a forecasting system, you have to check its accuracy and how it performs, because you need to be sure that the information is accurate enough for your need and for the study that you have to do, or for the choice that you have to take. And so we are trying to define a generalized tool that can identify the level of complexity of the processes, for example, for the validation that are performed from all these forecasting systems, so that you can know there could be some that are under development or they do not have the capability to go in depth as ECMWF does for understanding all the accuracy of the products that they do deliver, but others they could do. And so it's really important that you have this information together with other important information, for example, on the dissemination level, because you need to know if they are easily available to everyone or if there is a more complex mechanism for accessing the information. And for achieving the goal, we are working in collaboration with several other initiatives. Now, I will not go into the details of all of them, but one that I think is really important to show, to talk about. So first of all, there is the European Digital Twin of the Ocean that has been showcased by Diane and is just displayed in the pavilion behind you. So I invite you, if you are interested, to go and have a look. But there is also a strong collaboration with the Digital Twin of the Ocean program that is aiming to promote best practices and is leveraging on modeling forecasting system for developing a digital twin. And another important component, this is the last, is the fact that ocean prediction is also focusing with specific project areas for developing tools so that they can be then also part of this big community, and they can provide a useful contribution that can be shared with all the other partners. And I will conclude saying that it's really important, even if maybe it's a bit complex and also boring to go through all of this complexity of different names and institutions, but it's really what you need to have behind the scene if you want to connect globally the community for being able to have a good understanding of the marine environment and in the ocean that it doesn't know any border. And so we need to do a collective effort for improving our capability to predict. Thank you.
Grazie Marina, grazie.
Prego.